At the start of the movie, we see Noboru taking his journey back to his hometown. He is set to give a lecture at his high school alma mater about his novel. Noboru has found success in writing his first book, and even he is amazed that it went well. Upon arriving at the train station of his hometown, he sees a poster promoting Miyazaki suits. The name is very familiar to him. He is looking forward to meeting his senior again. Then, he meets another senior, one of the 3 people who impacted much of his high school life. Tetsuko Kambayashi is still as beautiful as ever, and her daughter certainly takes after her. They go to a family diner, where they catch up on each other's lives. Tetsuko is currently married to Miyazaki, and they have 2 children. Meanwhile, Noboru stays single, saying nobody would even think about marrying him. Tetsuko doesn't agree, especially now that he's become a popular writer. Her genuine kindness hasn't changed throughout the years, which makes Noboru feel grateful to be friends with her. Noboru makes a remark about how the town has not changed, just like Tetsuko. He feels like, instead of stepping out of the train, he stepped out of a time machine, back into the past. Back in his high school life, where he got most of his inspiration for his novel. In a flashback, we get to see the whole story from Noboru's point of view. Noboru is a quiet, unremarkable student. He knows that he isn't built to be one of the popular guys, and that's fine with him. Together with his good friend Tanabe, they know how to get by. But he does wonder what it's like to be popular. Outside his classroom, he sees Tetsuko Kobayashi, his senior, getting surrounded by her admirers. Pretty, rich, and popular. It seems like she has it all. Of course, only the popular guy deserves to be by her side. And that guy is Shun Miyazaki, who also happens to be Noboru's childhood friend. Noboru doesn't know much about Miyazaki's current life, but he knows that Miyazaki and Tetsuko are together. That's why it baffles him when one time he sees Miyazaki talking to another girl with short hair. They seem quite close, which makes Noboru think they are together too. When Noboru asks Miyazaki about this, Miyazaki's attitude changes. And this is the point when things change for Noboru. Miyazaki calls him to meet him at the library. There, Miyazaki introduces him to Momose, the girl with short hair. Miyazaki implicitly confirms that he's going out with Momose, but he wants it to be a secret to maintain his relationship with Tetsuko. Miyazaki asks Noboru to pretend to be Momose's boyfriend, so that rumors of Miyazaki's infidelity will vanish. Noboru may be unremarkable, but he's smart enough to understand that Miyazaki wants to play both hands. Adding to this is the fact that Momose is okay with this arrangement. He can see that Momose is cute and looks smart, so he wonders why she's willing to put up with this arrangement. Since this meeting, Momose has made sure that most of the students will see her with Noboru, that they know they are together. Anyone who cares is shocked. After all, it's surprising that the plain boy gets the cute girl as his girlfriend. Noboru's calm and meek demeanor greatly contrasts Momose's assertiveness, which makes them an odd couple. But it does the job of repelling the rumor about Miyazaki's infidelity. At school, they hold hands whenever they can. But outside school, Momose becomes indifferent to Noboru. The only place they can be true to themselves is on the rooftop. There, Noboru can't help but look at Momose and notice how she looks free with her movements. It's his first time to become this close to a girl. He's self-aware enough to know that he feels a physical attraction with her. But he's pragmatic too, and knows how to balance his feelings with reality. Noboru learns that Momose communicates with Miyazaki through calls and texts. She also secretly visits Miyazaki at his part-time job after school. Noboru asks Momose if she's really fine with the situation. In response, she simply asks if he's ever fallen for someone, to which the answer is negative. One day, Noboru and Momose encounter Miyazaki and Tetsuko in the school corridor. Noboru and Momose hold hands, quietly encouraging each other to bravely pretend. The encounter goes well. Tetsuko is charming and is genuinely happy to see them together. In truth, Noboru feels awkward, and Miyazaki and Momose try to steal glances at each other, especially Momose. After that encounter, Momose tells Noboru they did well in front of Tetsuko. But Noboru is not convinced. He wants to know if there's any real reason to pretend. He asks not because he doesn't want to do it anymore, but because he can sense that Momose is starting to fall apart. Momose says they have no reason at all, yet they still need to continue. She says 45% of couples break up after 2 years. She's willing to wait if that statistic is true. Noboru points out the other part of that statistic, that 55% stays together. Momose chooses to ignore him, not wanting to give up the small hope she has in her heart. That night, she visits Miyazaki at his part-time job. She wants to tell him how she longs for them to become exclusive. The problem is, the short time she spends with him is already enough for her. Enough to understand why they have to be this way. As for Noboru, he wants to call Momose an idiot, but he can't. This causes him so much stress that he ends up at the school's infirmary due to an upset stomach. Momose finds out about this, so she visits him. There, she tells him about Tetsuko's proposal of a double date and the four of them going out together. Initially, Noboru doesn't want to, but he sees the trinket that Miyazaki gave him when they were young, which Momose stole after learning about it. He then agrees to join the double date. It will be easier for Noboru to think he's doing this as a favor for Miyazaki, as a payback for when Miyazaki saved his life. Momose is pleased that Noboru is coming. She decides to come home with him and see if he has anything decent to wear for a double date. On their way, Noboru is trying to come up with a reasonable excuse why he's bringing home a girl. Momose rejects all of his ideas. Instead, they should tell the story of how Noboru helped Momose find her little sister, who went missing during a picnic. This story is actually true, as this is how Momose first met Miyazaki and the reason why she fell for him. Upon arriving at Noboru's house, the mother is giddy to see that her son has brought home a girl. Noboru is embarrassed. He tries hard to ignore his mother while he leads Momose to his room. There, they sit for a minute. Noboru feels that feeling again towards Momose. He realizes he's experiencing a lot of first times with her. For example, she's the first girl to be in his room. Noboru is getting used to this feeling the longer he spends time with her. Later, the mother prepares her infamous curry with pineapples. Noboru thinks it's inappropriate and disgusting, but Momose genuinely likes it. She also shows kindness and politeness, which in a way relieves Noboru. After the visit, he brings Momose to the train station. She remarks about his mother's hospitality. Meeting the mother reminds Momose of her father, who would always promise to bring her to the zoo, but he never did. It's implied that the father has been absent in Momose's life, and in her mind, those empty promises were all lies. She can't help but hate lies. At this, Noboru stops. She hates lies, but she wants to continue this pretend situationship for Miyazaki. He tells her they should stop. He says there's no point in her spending fleeting moments with Miyazaki when all the other moments belong to someone else. Momose says she knows it very well. The truth is, Miyazaki initially didn't want this setup right at the start, but it was Momose who urged him to still go with it. She wasn't ready to part ways with him because she was, still is, deeply in love with him. She'll do anything just to have those fleeting moments. Noboru points out how she used to call him an idiot. Momose turns around, self-pity filling her eyes. She herself admits that she's indeed an idiot. When Momose comes home, we see more of her life there. Since their father is absent, their mother has to work several jobs to support them. Therefore, Momose takes on the task of looking after her four younger siblings. It's not that she's complaining or sulking about her situation. She understands and has accepted it. But once in a while, she wants to feel that she's taken care of, to relieve herself of that responsibility and be dependent on other people. That's why she fell for Miyazaki on the day they met. He ticks off all the boxes of her ideal boyfriend. The next day, Momose calls Noboru to the rooftop so she can cut his hair. It's an intimate gesture for Noboru, an act of trust. There, he finds out that Momose is planning to grow her hair, just like Tetsuko. Perhaps by then Miyazaki will finally give her his attention. The day of the double date finally arrives. Noboru and Momose remind themselves that they are in a relationship and they should enjoy the day like a couple. And to make herself feel better, Momose says she's happy to be spending the day with Miyazaki, even if it's like this. Noboru gives her a lukewarm, "I'm happy for you." So far, the date is going well. The girls are getting along while the boys watch them. They put aside any discomfort caused by their secret setup. However, in Momose's case, she can't help but feel how far apart her world is from Tetsuko. Even her simple lip balm can't match the lipstick that Tetsuko elegantly puts on her lips. At the cinema, Noboru doesn't feel well. Seeing this, Momose decides to stay with him. Miyazaki and Tetsuko are concerned, but they let the couple be. Momose stays with Noboru because, at least, she can find comfort in his presence, especially now that she's feeling insecure. Afterwards, the four go to the nearby lake, where Momose proposes they go boating. She mentions a superstitious belief that any couple who would go boating here is meant to break up. Whether it's true or not, they decide to exchange partners. Miyazaki rides with Momose, and Noboru rides with Tetsuko. This is perhaps the most unromantic, unhappy boating they'll ever have in their lives. After their date, they ride a bus home. Tetsuko gives Miyazaki a bud of Chinese lantern, saying the flower reminds her of him. Later, Miyazaki and Tetsuko alight first. Momose is quiet throughout the ride. She says she would have enjoyed the date more if they were all friends, instead of 4 different people with complicated feelings. It's already dawning on her how stupid the whole situation is. At the end of the day, it's her that suffers the most, because Miyazaki couldn't care less about what she feels. But she doesn't see the other person who also suffers for her. Noboru wants to comfort her, but she shuts him out. Momose leaves Noboru by the sidewalk. In his haste to follow her, he accidentally sends a pile of bicycles falling to the ground. His frustration, his pain, gets amplified with this seemingly insignificant incident. It's always those small things that snap the emotions out of someone. Unexpectedly, Tanabe finds him there. Noboru decides to tell his friend the truth about him and Momose. He ends his tale by saying Momose is a mean girl for the things she'd done to him, for cutting his hair, for holding his hand, for complimenting his mother's cooking, and for caring for him at the cinema. She's mean for making him fall for her when she's stupidly in love with someone else. His life would have been better if Miyazaki never introduced her to him. And now, he's hurting because the girl he loves is hurting too. Tanabe, bless him for being a goofy but good listener, advises Noboru to confront Miyazaki. Only then will he be able to move forward. So Noboru cycles his way to Miyazaki's house to confront his senior. From their recollections, it's revealed that Miyazaki and Noboru first met during the wake of Miyazaki's father. He went out of the house to escape the loneliness, and then he saw Noboru bleeding on the side of the road due to a bicycle accident. Miyazaki saved Noboru's life, just as Noboru gave joy to Miyazaki, like a younger brother would when he was mourning. This is why Noboru looks up to Miyazaki. But then Noboru learns that Miyazaki not only loves Tetsuko, but intends to use her wealth to revive his father's tailor shop. As for Momose, he doesn't really care about her that much. Noboru loses respect for his senior. Upon hearing this, Miyazaki realizes how conniving he is for using the 2 girls for his own interest. He finally decides to choose between the 2 girls. He writes a letter to Momose, hoping to settle things with her despite the manner of settling. Noboru rides towards Momose's house. He accidentally stumbles outside, which wakes her up. He gives the letter and allows her to fully understand its contents. After a few contemplative minutes, Momose asks him to take a walk with her. She does her best to come to terms with the situation, saying she believes Miyazaki may have genuinely liked her at some point, but the best things eventually end. As mentioned in the letter, they should stop meeting, calling, and texting each other. There's no need for a justification. This is one of those things that can't be helped. Momose has always known this, but she's just stubborn. Now her stubbornness is causing her pain, which she's sure will be stuck with her forever. She shouts how she loves Miyazaki, and how she hates his stupid guts. Noboru stands there, allowing her to let out her emotions. Momose asks Noboru if he understands what she feels. He says he won't be able to. Momose looks at him, and she sees for the first time how kind he is, for putting up with her whims, and for being there when she needs it. Noboru stays with Momose until sunrise. By then it looks like she's coping with her heartbreak. Momose tells him this is the end of their partnership. This means they won't go home together anymore. They won't talk anymore, and they won't see each other anymore, even if they're at the same school. She even says she'll cut her hair, as there's no point in growing it longer. Noboru understands that it may not end well, but he still takes his shot. He invites her to come to the zoo, and it won't be a lie like what her father said. He's ready to offer her his handkerchief when she needs it, and he'll walk her home every day. He asks if she can look at him for the last time. But Momose doesn't. We go back to the present, where Noboru is still talking to Tetsuko at the restaurant. He's always wanted to ask a certain question since that time. He remembers that Tetsuko gave Miyazaki the Chinese lantern bud before. In the language of flowers, it means betrayal, unfaithfulness, and infidelity. Noboru asks Tetsuko, has she always known about Momose? In response, Tetsuko only puts her finger on her lips, asking him to keep quiet. They part ways at the end of the day. Tetsuko lets him know that her marriage with Miyazaki is not always smooth sailing, but she's happy at where she is now. Noboru decides to visit the school where he'll give his lecture. The place is just as he remembers, even the rooftop where he used to meet with Momose. After that, he takes a walk along the road, where he and Momose last saw each other. In his contemplation, he is surprised to see again the only girl, now a woman, who introduced him to what love is. Momose doesn't seem to recognize him, but she looks beautiful with her long hair. Noboru smiles as he remembers how Momose said she'd cut her hair. Indeed, some things never change.